Hi, all. I'm here for another HR Engage podcast. Of course, your host, Jonathan Mamaril. And today I've got a really special guest, and I'm super excited to come on board. Tony, a lot of you actually would probably know Tony. He is a LinkedIn top voice, is rated consistently very high in terms of HR leaders, HR influencers, particularly on LinkedIn, but just generally in just the internet, in the internet ether. So there's lots of videos, just put his name in. You'll see loads and loads of videos around the place. But today we've got him as a special guest on the HR Engage podcast. Tony, how you going?
Hey, thank you, Jonathan. It's great to be here. And I must say, that was a very good introduction. I'm not sure I can live up to it, but I'll try. So thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, Tony, I've been following you for quite a while. I'm one of your, I can't remember how many followers you got. I think 15,000 or something like that followers. You got loads and loads of followers on LinkedIn. I don't know what your other social media is like, but I know your LinkedIn's fantastic. And just the stuff you're putting out there, I just had to get you onto the podcast, Tony.
Thank you. Well, it is everyday HR stuff that I'm talking about. So I would say run of the mill, and every company goes through the experience. That's how I see it. And I'm just trying to, I guess, share my insights.
You're one of the people that I think is quite open about, what is HR, essentially the future of HR. But I want to peek a little bit behind the curtain, Tony, and just, I suppose the first question I want to ask you is, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I've been in HR for 33 years. It's a long journey. And I guess in those 33 years, I have ventured across different corners of the world. I worked in Southeast Asia, worked in Europe, and now in Australia. And each country rewires how I see people. The organization, what does good HR actually mean? And the one thing that I always come back to, HR has never been a support function. It is always a business function. So that's how I always view things.
I just want to pick up on that point there. Yeah. You say, because there is probably still, I'd say, a stereotype, whether it's perceived or not perceived, around HR being a support function, almost an extension of administration. You say, well, actually it's more of a business function. Is that something that you see consistently across, say, Asia and Australia, or is it different cultural views around that?
Well, you see, each region or each country gave me a different insight, right? So in Malaysia, I learned about relationships and respect and the foundation of everything, right? Whereas in Europe, in the Netherlands in particular, it was where I learned about directness and that structure are not the enemy of empathy. It's a very interesting spin on that. And then in Far East, in China and all that, it's where I learned about the scale, the speed, and the cultural nuances that, that completely break for a better word, a Western HR playbook. So if you're not humble enough to adapt, then you find that the playbook doesn't work. And now in Australia, it's a mix of everything, a collective mix of everything. So I find that I'm still learning, and it's an everyday evolution thing. So each of those chapters, I guess, shaped a version of me as a HR person, and accumulation of them is what you see today.
So that journey, I want to talk to you about that journey, because you've got a really interesting journey into HR. I suppose the first thing is, what got you into HR in the first place? What was the thing that led to you becoming this? Well, I'm going to say it, Tony. I know you're going to be too humble. I'm going to say you are a star in the HR scene, especially in Australia. So tell us, how did you, firstly get into HR?
I started my life out as an architect, doing drawings and designing buildings. And I guess I got in HR because I found myself in a situation where I cared deeply about people and, how they would be treated at work. And I wanted to be the one in the room that was able to actually do something about it. And that's what caused me to flip. So cross over to the dark side, they say.
So tell us, architecture. I mean, very I would say, creative people generally, thinking about all types of structures they can put
Design.
together.
So
I know there's
that's,
different types of architects. I get that.
yeah. Mhm.
And you go from that to, I mean, what was your sort of your first role? Was it more of a learning development side, or was like a straight out employee relations?
Absolutely. Straight out employee relations. And, architects deal with the articulation of building, right?
Mm,
So I said, I can articulate a building design, but the design doesn't speak back to me in the same way that person does. Everybody's different. And you got to understand, in our life, a majority of a person's waking life is work. So the
mm,
quality of someone's experience at work, whether they feel seen, valued, challenged, or safe, has a direct and measurable impact on, on the quality of their life. It's not a small thing, right? It's everything. So for me, I felt that was my calling. And HR done well is one of the functions of genuinely touches that. You change the trajectory of a person's life because of their career. You can build a culture where people actually want to show up to work, want to come to work. And you can prevent, and on the flip side, you can prevent a talented person from leaving a company because they felt that they were not noticed or they were struggling. And HR just say, I see you. And then all of a sudden, oh, that's a different story.
yeah.
Different page.
So you saw the HR function as a way to, people spend an inordinate amount of time at work. The bang for buck, if you make that a really good
Absolutely.
experience,
Yeah.
just went a lot further. Is that how you framed it? Is that how you saw it?
That's how I see it because I
Yeah.
experienced it myself. When I came out from went from university into architecture, I felt that sometimes, I was treated like a drafting machine. I mean, I was doing architecture before computers. So we're talking about pencil, paper, big long rulers, and they're bending over the table, 8 hours a day just drawing.
Yeah.
And then after that, when you stand, I said, oh, hang on, as a 25-year-old, I shouldn't be feeling pain in my back, but I am. So that kind of feeling. It was like, okay, so we are creating design. People are coming up with great ideas in their brains, but physically, they're not being looked after.
Mm.
And who goes around and tell them, oh, please take a break? There was none of that in those days, right? So you start thinking, how to get the best design out of people? By looking after the people. That's what you do. And that's why I thought, oh, yeah, we should look after the people so we can get the best designs, rather than saying, oh, how do you get the best designs out of someone's head?
I can sort of, I don't know why I do this, but I can sort of imagine you sitting on a balcony thinking about this. I don't know, looking over some skyscrapers or something with a glass of whiskey in your hand and thinking, I wonder who's taking care of the people. Actually, if I could actually get people to a place where they enjoy to come to work, they're taking appropriate rest breaks, whatever that might look like, but the solution or the point is that they will get to the best of their ability in terms of creating that design.
That's right. You want them to focus on design so their mind's not focused on anything else.
Wow.
And how do you do that? You get them in the comfort zone.
And so that basically prompted you to get into HR.
That was one of the triggers. That was one of the triggers. Yeah. They got me in HR. I mean, there were other factors as well that led me to HR. I mean, one of the stories I keep telling is how a friend of mine actually got me to a recruitment workshop by offering me free breakfast. And he went for a technical interview, and I said they eat breakfast, and ended up going for an interview without even thinking about it. And then, they said, actually, you're a good people person. Maybe you should do HR. So that was that. There was that story too.
Yeah.
That may be the start of that may be the introduction to my TED Talk coming up. I'm not sure yet.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Tony, so you did mention that you did go from, you worked in different countries. You worked in Europe, you worked in Asia, and obviously you work in Australia.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, like what was the reasoning for that? Because, jumping from different countries, different cultures, different organizations, different ways they look at HR. What made you want to do that?
It was the company that I was working for. So I started my HR personnel career in oil and gas. So I flipped completely from design and
Yeah.
construction into oil and gas industry. And then straight away was dealing with oil and gas engineers and people like that, offshore people, roughnecks and all that in the field. And I was working for Shell, for a company called Shell.
Yeah.
And of course, they moved me to Malaysia as a sort of a assignment, overseas assignment. So I worked there for about 7 years. And then from there, I went up to, they sent me to central office in Europe. So I was in the Netherlands for 5 years working there as well. So that's how my overseas experience came about. It wasn't something that I voluntarily said I was going to do. It was something that the company said, you should do this. And I was like, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to enjoy that, because back in those days, there was what you call the expatriate allowance and benefits, and they were very good. So very attractive. You know, I was a 20-something guy, right? So I was starting out, I was like, oh, can't go wrong doing overseas experiences, right? So that's what I did, and that's the journey. And I would now tell my kids, my eldest is now 27 years old, and I said to all my kids now, if you get a chance, go and do overseas experience, because what you learn about the people, about the culture over there, you can't pick it up from watching TV, or you can't pick it up from reading books, and you can't pick it up from people who have migrated here. You got to pick it up in their home country. So it's one of the things I encourage fully. Anybody out there, if you get a chance, go overseas and work.
That's actually a point that was made by a number of previous podcast guests, like Simon Lever, who said that, you know, that overseas experience actually helped him a lot in terms of, you know, dealing with different cultures, but also more of an understanding of maybe, say, how overseas companies might look at, you know, Australian staff, and just how that dynamic, those nuances.
Yes.
So what might sound maybe very direct to us or very maybe robust is actually maybe very normal language or normal spoken language overseas.
Absolutely. I mean, the most interesting thing you touched on was I looked Asian. And so when I was sent to Malaysia, they thought, oh, here's a Malaysian coming back from Australia. But I was actually born here. So I grew up here. And when I went back, it took me a while to actually understand what it means to be truly Malaysian for the first couple of years. So there were things that I was doing. And I remember in my first 12 months, they labeled me as brash Malaysian. I thought, oh, why? I thought I was being very humble, but actually I found out compared to a local Malaysian, I was very different. So one of the lessons which I learned from there is, you know, that you got to be comfortable, you actually have to get uncomfortable. So the moments that drew me the most are the ones where I was completely out of my depth, you know, with the new country, the new language, the new business crisis, for example, that I've never seen before. And that's where we do not run away from it, we actually run towards them. That's the best learning. And that would be one of the things which I would normally, in coaching moments, I would tell the younger ones, these are the things that you look out for.
Coaching seems to be one of the areas that, I want to pick up that point about coaching. It seems to be one of the areas that you have really focused on. If you look at a lot of your content you put out, there's a lot around mentoring and coaching, especially, yes, leaders, but also people in the HR leadership space. When you say, talk about those points, some of those points around, you know, maybe have a think about working overseas, essentially taking different opportunities, give them a go. What type of things are you looking for in a person who is coming through the ranks, let's say in HR or people and culture? What types of things are you looking for to, I suppose, mold them and coach them, but not in a way that obviously you're telling them what to do? Like, what, I suppose that coaching side is quite different. Like, but what's the angle that you take, Tony?
It's all about, I think, and many of your guests have spoken about this, it's about the curiosity. Curiosity to learn, curiosity to absorb information, curiosity to be open-minded enough to understand that, you know, there's a lot of things we do not know, and we don't know, right? That's the thing. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for you to learn, and I think for me, there's always a baseline. There's a baseline of what people should be able to grasp first. And then after that, everything else is a bonus. And in HR, the one key thing which I think HR people need to grasp is business literacy early on. Because I mean, face it, HR without commercial acumen is just administration, right? With good intentions. So I would say for any people who are starting off in HR, who want to know what's the first thing they need to do is understand P&L. To know what keeps a CEO awake at night. That is gold. Mm-hmm. Speak the language of the business, not just the language of HR. Get that first, and then you can talk about, right, what other niches do I build on? And one more thing about HR is don't confuse being liked with being respected. Yeah. You cannot be a great HR person and also be everyone's best friend. So I learned that early on. I made some mistakes early on as well about that. Sometimes the most important things you will ever do to someone is tell them, have that hard conversation, hard chat, and tell them that, hey, I've got some feedback for you. It's going to be critical. It's not going to be comfortable, but you'll learn from it. So learning from that, learn to do that. That's the start.
That's a really good point. And it's a point that's been made by a number of podcast guests, HR Engaged podcast guests, around that commercial acumen and knowing how the business basically makes money, or if it's not for profit, how it's to get more members or whatever the goal of the organization might be, but actually know what that is, because that obviously makes it tick.
It makes it easier for you to have the conversation.
Yes.
With the board, because then you say, right, they say, oh, you're not just fluffy, because you know how they say HR is very fluffy. We're not fluffy. We understand what it means. Without people, you can't run an organization.
Where do you think HR professionals make mistakes in that point? So what I'm really asking is, if they don't get that commercial acumen or commercial understanding right, or don't want to know, there's other parts to it. They don't want to know, not interested. Where do you think the mistakes are then made by HR professionals?
I would say, think about it this way though. HR has a great credibility that you could live on, right? And it lives and dies on your courage. So every time HR stays silent in the room where you should have spoken up, maybe because they want to so-called protect their seat to avoid conflict, to make someone comfortable, you erode the value of HR. So the job is to say what others will not. That's where a lot of HR people need to develop that, right? If you cannot do that, you're not doing HR. You're just doing, I don't know, paperwork with a fancier title.
And do you think that's the difference, elevation of difference between essentially what's maybe this perception around HR administration, basically, and more in a strategic positioning?
Yeah, that's how you cross over to being strategic. You have a voice and you're willing to use your voice.
Yeah. I can almost hear it in my ear. Mm-hmm. People who are listening, it could be in the car, they could be on a plane right now.
Yeah.
I know a couple of people who are listening on the beach, by the way, but I can hear them now saying, yeah, that's easy for you. You just say, Tony, is sitting there beautifully in this, in your seat right now. But when that moment actually comes and maybe you do say something, you might be even shut down immediately, or maybe some stern words are said afterwards about, raising some conflict. How do they then bounce back from that? Like, that could be potentially hurt them. How do they bounce back from that pushback that they might get?
If a person's authentic enough and speak their mind, then they're open enough to hear the criticism, open enough to learn, right? So let me tell you a story. This goes back, I guess, to one of my earlier company jobs. And 1997, there was an oil crisis when oil price went down to, I don't know, it was quite low. And the company had to do something. They had to create redundancies for the first time in that country. They had to create redundancies. Now, picture this. I'm a young HR person who was 27 years old.
Yeah.
And I was thrown in charge of, right, you need to talk to this group of people and get them prepared to leave the organization. You got to have the hard conversation with them saying, hey, sorry, I know you've been working here longer than I've been born, but your job's at risk.
Mm.
How do you think people survive that?
That's a difficult one. That's very difficult.
Yeah. So you can't hide. You can't sugarcoat. You just have to be factual. So you just have to say, sorry, this is what the company is going through, and we have to cut this down. We have to cut back this department. We have to cut down this team, and unfortunately, your number's up. So to make it easier for you, this is your package, and to make it easier for you, we will do this for you. We will help you see whether we can find you a new job, and if we can't, what's the next course of action? So we actually lay out bit by bit, plan it out, and have facts in every hurdle. Every gate to say what we're going to do with you. That's the best we can do. And then that person fully comprehend what it means. Maybe they say, I understand. And you say, do you understand? Can I catch up with you in 48 hours and see what your frame of thought is? Because when they go off, they'll be thinking 3,000 things at once.
Yeah.
So you want them to frame their mind. So you come back to them in 48 hours. It's right. Have you thought more about what does this mean for you, for your future? And some of them say, oh, but my children are still young and I need to look after them and look after my family. What do I do now? So you need to have that as well, that kind of conversation. Now, I was not married at that time. I was a young single. I was going, okay, I can only tell you what I seen or what I have in front of me. And that's when you do a lot of research. In those days, there was no Google.
No.
I think there was Alta Vista or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of reference books that you can read through. And you can read a lot of books, maybe Peter Drucker's book and say, oh, chapter 2 on how they do redundancies.
Yeah.
All those kind of so all those things were, at that time, your facts.
Yeah.
And you learn from that. Because when you talk to someone, they tell you what they're facing, and it becomes a knowledge nugget for you. So that when you talk to the next person, it's like, I kind of understand what you might be going through because you will have this and this and this limitations. So that's how you build on it. And that's why nowadays, sitting here after 33 years, I can tell you what I feel and see, but you build on that. And tell me whether people are the same, they react the same? No, they don't. Everybody's different. Everybody learns different. Everybody works differently. So what I have an answer now for may not suit you, and you might say, Tony, you're full of BS. I said, maybe, but that's what I know. That's my experience. So let me hear you out. Tell me. Be open to listen to that, and that's how we get through things in situations like that, the challenges.
That's that what you're saying there. It really does reflect. I think the movement of HR in terms of how it needs to be seen or perceived or looked at, but also the mindset of HR professionals right now. If I could take you back a little bit in time, to an early career Tony, he barely had some back problems from the architect days, but he's into HR now and he's feeling a bit better. What advice would you have, knowing what you do know now? What advice would you have for early career Tony?
I guess one of them was I touched on earlier about, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, because that's one thing that I would say. You're going to be in HR for a long time, so make sure you're prepared that it's not going to be a bed of roses every day. Yeah. And the other thing is, not many people will like you all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you will be saying things, you'll be doing things that not many people will say, oh, that's exactly what I need to hear. You come performance review time, and you've got to have a hard conversation with somebody. Say, well, you think you might be doing well, but here are your failures, and you could improve on them. And they say, oh, really? I thought I was doing so well. I should be getting a promotion, but now you're telling me I'm not doing so well. Say, yes, these are the facts. Be factual. Always be factual. HR can't go wrong if you're factual. If you have the numbers, that's why understand your P&L, understand what the business is all about. Business literacy, number one. Always do that. So those are some of the advice that I would tell myself, that make sure you are on top of the game in that way, in that sense.
And on that point, are there mistakes that you made throughout your career as a HR professional
All
that you
the time.
go, if I only just did this, it would have
If
been
only, yeah.
much better?
If only that hindsight is what's it? They say hindsight is a wonderful
Yeah.
thing. I think hindsight is a cracker. It really damages your brain, really, if you think about it. Because you can always say, if only, what if, what if, what if.
Yeah.
There's so many what ifs. So nowadays I consciously have to think to myself, I'm going to be making mistakes. Even now, I'm going to be
Yeah.
making mistakes. And tomorrow, I'm going to be making mistakes until I retire, the day I retire. So it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's okay. You must learn from your mistakes, right? You don't want to be committing the same mistakes over and over again. You learn from it, and then you move on to the next next mistake they've never seen before. So it's a learning experience. Treat it as that. And the one more thing they talk about is pattern recognition. They say, oh, HR is all about pattern recognition and behaviors. In a way, yes, but in a way, it's not as well, because again, different people behave differently. The patterns can't be predicted. It's different from, say, designing a building where, if you're stacking a 10-story building, this is the pattern you go for. No, people are different. So yeah, I would say those are the things that you learn from.
Yeah.
Invest in learning. Invest in understanding why you make a mistake in the first place.
Are you sick and tired of receiving advice that is very long, sometimes doesn't make sense, has a lot of legal jargon? All you want is some practical advice so you can achieve whatever those aims are. Maybe you want lawyers that are more preventative than reactionary. Well, maybe South Geldart is the solution. We've been helping HR professionals for a very long time now, and this firm itself is built off over 60 years of history. That's a lot of history. That's a lot of values. So we pride ourselves on being fast, on staying in communication with you, and of course, being really practical with our advice. So the next time a matter comes around, why don't you give South Geldart a try? Check out southgeldart.com.au. I'm Jonathan. I'm the director here for the employment law team, and we'll make sure we take care of you. Now, of course, if you say that you're a listener to the HR Engage podcast, we'll make sure that there might be a little bit of a discount there for you as well. Do you think that investment in learning, whether it's formal or informal, whatever it might be, do you think that's the best way forward for anyone in HR, but in particular for those in more junior roles right now, because I think there's a bit of, Tony, I'm not sure if you think this, but I think there's a bit of pressure for HR professionals to be perfect, to get absolutely right, whether it's perceived or not. That we've got to get absolutely every single thing right, because we make a mistake and it's super amplified. Do you think that is a way to deal with that? Is okay, well, if you get a bit more training under your belt, a bit of investment in some tools or whatever it might be, that this could help in getting that confidence?
CEOs perceive that. CEOs think we are perfect and we won't make mistakes because we're supposed to be the policy police or something, a procedures police or something. But don't forget, though, a lot of times, and I say that with my eyes open and looking at you directly on the screen, a lot of times the CEOs themselves don't want to tackle those issues. So they say, HR, it's on your plate. Because they don't want to be seen making mistakes. So they say, you go make the mistakes. A lot of times that. So it's not perfect. It's doing what we need to do. There's the difference. Right? We need to have that hard conversation. We need to have the courage to say what we need to say. Sometimes it comes out wrong because we've never done it before. We never said it before. But end of the day, it has to be said. So in a way, mistakes have to be made for us to get over to the next level, next stage.
Interesting. Now, there's also a lot of, and I think for your episode, Tony, there'll be a lot of people in senior HR, people in culture and learning development roles are listening to this episode. What are the two big pieces of advice you would have for any person who is currently, more maybe in the senior roles or more intermediate roles right now, who have been there for a while now? They understand, yes, that they've got to take opportunities and yes, they've got to do, but what are two big pieces of advice that you have for them, those who are really, in the more senior roles right now?
HR's job is to say what others will not. If you cannot do that, you're not doing HR, right? And then the other thing is, I would always encourage people, go to HR conferences, go research, travel if you can, work in industries that stretch you. Being a HR professional, you get respect from those who are perpetually curious. The ones who stop being curious, you stop being relevant. So those will be the advice I give people. I say, always stay curious and always stay, find out what's new, find out what's there. Try different conferences, not just in the country, go to different country, because they've got different ways, they've got different nuances, different ways of doing things. And sometimes you go, oh, we could do that here. We didn't know that.
Yeah. You do a lot of videos on LinkedIn right now, and you do different types of things. There'll be ones where you're just in a coffee shop. I mean, I saw one where you're actually on an airplane. I mean, I know that was a little bit more about your holiday, but you're on an airplane.
I was very happy with that. I had Wi-Fi at 30,000 feet.
That was pretty impressive. Right? You talk about HR people maybe stretching themselves a little bit, and even if you are in an experienced position, even if though you've been around for a while, still, and I see that with you, even, the comparison between the material that you're sending out last year to this year is completely different. Sorry, not completely different, but different. Sorry, different in very different. Yes, different in a good way.
Different styles. Mm-hmm.
What, obviously not a lot of others are going to be like that, like yourself, Tony, who put stuff out like this and building a brand and all those types of things. But for those who are more, just at it all the time, you're saying, look, you just got to, stretch yourself, get a little bit a bit uncomfortable, do a bit of travel, try, go to conferences, talk to people. Who do you find are the best in your sort of industry? Who are the types of people you like talking to sort of get that information, get that freshness, those new ideas? Like, who are the types of people that you like talking to?
I enjoy talking to people who are very versatile. 1 minute you're talking about organizational change, and next minute you're talking about psychology of the person. So I enjoy having those conversations where you don't stay too long on a topic. Mm-hmm. I like to just pivot and change and talk to different people. Sometimes I end up talking about food, and that guy go, well, I don't have any food preference. Well, okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next. Everybody knows food. Everybody has food choices, right? Jonathan, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food is by far my mum's chicken adobo. It's a Filipino dish, yeah.
A chicken adobo. I love a good chicken adobo. It's beautiful place. So yeah, it's talking. For me, it's about someone who's open enough to and versatile enough to talk anything with you. Within HR even, or if I might end up going to a networking event where there's nobody in HR, and then I said, right, what can I talk about today? Ooh, they are talking about data science. Not my strongest suit, but I'll find something that's common to them.
But I got someone. I still got someone.
Yeah, so that's what inspires me to go out and meet people. Let's talk about different things.
Yeah. So not just stretching yourself in terms of being uncomfortable around the things that you might do, but also talking to people who might be a little bit out of your area just to get a different perspective. Is that you're saying as well, Tony?
Most fun. That is the most fun. That is most fun. I mean, when someone wants to talk to me about Python coding, you're going, sure, I'll tackle that. I have no idea what it is, but I'll tackle that. Because then you start thinking, well, the speed of change versus the pace of human adaptation.
Yeah.
We're all deploying technology, so might as well.
Well, I've got something similar too, Tony. There's like three types of people I love talking to, who I call the canaries in the mine. So they're basically they're a way for me to go, what's business like? Because sometimes it can be a bit echo chamber. If you're talking to your clients, or you're talking to people in HR, or you're talking to other lawyers, you're almost getting an echo chamber. You're sort of getting information that
You
you want to
already know.
hear. One,
Yeah.
and two, maybe you think yourself. So it's just constantly coming back to you. But I like talking to people a little bit outside the zone. So
Yeah.
the three that I like to talk to, so insolvency guys. So
Oh
and
yeah.
that's an obvious one, because
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
in particular, if they're asking me for coffee, I know things are a bit slower. And then if they're going quiet, I know things are going a bit
Yep.
faster. So that gives me an
Faster. Yeah.
idea of how
Yeah.
things are going. Another one, real estate agents, because I think those guys, it's the epitome of hustle and bustle, like,
Oh yeah.
in terms of sales. And so
Mm.
they will give me an indication of how things are going just generally in the market, like a
Yeah.
general market, because they get an
They have a good
understanding
sense. They
across
have a
the
good
board.
sense of how the market is. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
But the
people are.
third one is landscape architects.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because if you think about landscape architecture, that is like the epitome of luxury spend, right? That's the epitome of luxury spend. You probably won't spend a lot on your landscape unless there's
Yeah.
quite a lot of disposable income. So if they are really happy,
Yeah.
I go, oh, things are going really well in the
Mhm.
economy in general. And if they are not as happy, I go, okay, something's happening. So I have a bit of a similar story. Like, those are the three types of
Yeah.
I call them canaries in the mine that
I
tell
love
me
that.
how
I
things
love
are
that.
going.
I think you can add car salesman to it,
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah,
especially those who are selling their diesel cars to change to
yeah.
EV.
Yeah, I think just yeah, I think there's a really good point around exposing yourself to other things outside of your
Yeah.
expertise or general area, because it can be a little bit of an echo chamber. And
Yeah.
and you see that a lot, where there's that mob mentality. You go to a conference and everyone talks about how, I don't know, a law is wrong or law is terrible, but you talk out into the market, you're talking to
Yeah.
clients, and it
Yeah.
doesn't even register. Doesn't
No,
even
that's right.
register for them. So, but for us, because we're so close to it, it's so integral and important.
Mm.
And for us, it might be, but for everyone else, it doesn't even register. It's not even a blip in the radar.
I mean, at the moment, if you look at any conference or any course, any industry, there's going to be something about AI, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
And then you
yeah,
think, how does that apply to mom and dad's shop?
yeah, yeah. But it's such a topic of high discussion. It's also, I think, Tony, very content savvy. Or what I mean by that is it's easy to make content on. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it
one of
is.
those, you can just roll out some words. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think, and I think that's a really interesting point you make as well.
Yeah.
Going to the challenges that
Mm.
HR are meeting now, there are so many challenges in the workplace. But for you, Tony, what are the biggest challenges you're facing now in HR, and how are you tackling it?
Well, I think AI is the one because a lot of people are saying, oh, HR, you're going to take my job away once AI is implemented. I was like, really? I am? Yeah, because AI is going to be doing this, AI is doing that. My job's going to be redundant and I'm not going to be doing it. Well, at the rate the organizations are going, maybe they're not equipped to absorb it all. So maybe you still have a job for a while.
Yep, yep.
And the people who, I guess, the people who are most at risk, right, from AI are the ones who have the least voice in the decisions. I mean, what I'm tackling it with is, I guess, to be deliberately honest, right? You have the conversation with others, and I'm helping leaders to understand that you cannot automate your way out of a culture problem, right? People will always be there for culture. And I'm reminding HR that their job in the moment is not to be the champion of every new AI platform. It's to be the conscience in the room asking, what does this mean for our people? So that for me is the challenge. That to me is probably the main challenge here in this AI world, is making sure that people understand where it sits. It is uncomfortable, but it is one of the most important work I think HR have to be doing in this generation.
With AI obviously being a huge topic of discussion, I know the upcoming RE conference, actually anything to do with HR, any conference with HR, payroll, learning, development, anything is going to have a huge part around AI, whether it's going to be a speaker or whatever it might be.
There will be. And that's, like you said, that's the topic of the day. So easy to talk about. Everybody becomes an AI expert. I had an intern come to me and say, I think I'm the AI expert of the company. I said, why? Because I'm young and savvy and I play a lot of games. I said, okay, all right, tell me more. And then they start telling me about this, and I said, well, that's not quite what we're talking about here in this organization. Why don't you go and talk to this person, get mentored by this person, and they'll tell you more. So there's a lot of people that think they can do it, but yeah.
So do you think there's definitely a rising tide of misconception of what they call AI experts who, when you look at the material, like, it's actually not that good? Or is that what you're seeing a lot of the, well, maybe
I do
junior?
see a lot.
Yeah.
How do I put this in a way? AI is not just ChatGPT, right? So when someone has to go and use that to reply an email, you think, oh, okay, so you think this is embracing AI to reply an email with ChatGPT rather than your own thoughts. And how I know it happened is because that person copied and pasted verbatim what ChatGPT gave them. So it's exactly with, and dashes and what was the other word? In this world, this is what we do, and started with a negative but followed by a positive. No. At least have some personality, answer emails normally.
Yeah. I wish I could say I see different things, but I don't. It's very heavy and it is unfortunate. But I think that in terms of a challenge, I see your angle that there's a challenge around AI, but not necessarily the way maybe people think, but also in terms of the more junior people talking about AI, but then also you're talking about staff who are worried that AI is going to take their role, but you go, well, actually, that's not quite there yet, and not for a while, but still trying to massage that.
Managing expectations, right? So the young ones, you say, look, I gotta get you to understand what exactly we talk about in AI. It's not just this; it's more than that. It's the evolution of processes, evolution of design, and then with those who are doing everyday routine tasks, there's more to it than that. You have a human eye that catches things that a computer can't yet. Those kind of things. Absolutely.
So if I was going to ask you, there's one question we always ask everyone on this podcast, and that is, what is the one thing about human resources that people might disagree with you about?
That HR is always neutral. I fundamentally disagree with that. Neutrality is a form of cowardice, right? Dressed up as professionalism. So we are not referees. We are advocates for people, for fairness and for the long-term health of the organization. So those things sometimes require you to take a side. And yes, sometimes that side is against the business. So be it. I mean, I have been in rooms where the neutral HR person said nothing or something genuinely was wrong.
Yep.
That's not neutral. That's complicit. So the profession deserves better than that. And frankly, so do the people we're supposed to serve.
Do you feel, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, do you feel there needs to be an uplift generally in the way HR practitioners do their role, or are you just saying there are parts where we need to really improve so we can get that across to
I
people?
go back to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of it is stereotyping.
Mm.
People look at HR, they stereotype. It could be back to the 80s, the 90s. They're
Yeah.
stereotyping that. Yeah. I mean, how many male HR practitioners do we see in the organization? People always think, "Oh, HR, we've got to hire women."
Yeah.
I mean in the most respected way, right? At one stage, people thought I was not a he him because I'm in HR.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
because of your name. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
so there you
Okay.
go. So it is all about stereotyping, and I think to break that, and we're hoping to see that as the younger generation comes up. To break that, we're saying HR has to have a voice, and again, I go back to making sure we have the courage to speak up, and not just be the just a body in a room. We've got to be the voice in the room. We've got to say what's right and what's wrong, and we've got to call it out, and that's how we change fundamentally.
That role of HR, is it largely dictated by basically the CEO and maybe the CFO, or do you believe that is part of the equation and actually HR need to be able to position themselves as well?
We are the extension of the CEO. What the CEO doesn't like to say, we say. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, they're all saying it.
Again, that's going back to the old days of HR, right? Or HR is now evolved. They don't even call it HR anymore. They call it people and culture now, just to give it a better word, right? It came from personnel and then became HR, and now become people and culture. So it is talking about the people. It's talking about the culture of the organization. It's not talking about, helping the CEO do this, helping the CEO do that. No, it's not. It's more about talking about what's required for the whole company, for the organization, and what it needs to move forward into the next phase of its evolution.
So basically saying it's about HR or people and culture positioning themselves as essentially the advocate of the people in the organization.
Yes.
But to position that, there needs to be a number of things. So obviously, support from the executive team being part of or have a seat at the table.
It's up to HR to actually make sure there is support, because they don't know everything either. So we, as an advocate for the people, for fairness, we have to make sure that management understands what it's all about, what it means for the people, what it means when you set your annual budget, what it means when you set your annual salary increase percentage. What does that mean? To have that. So again, going back to basics, business acumen is important. So you can actually talk with them and get them to understand why you think this should be the case.
Brilliant. Tony, we have a tradition on the HR Engage podcast. We have these rapid fire questions.
Oh,
just questions. Look, it's the first thing that comes to your mind. Ask these questions, and they're all about you. Is that okay?
Okay, this is where HR starts to sweat, is it?
Well, there's nothing controversial in there, but let's get going and see what you say. Tony, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie, Top Gun.
Oh,
Gen X all the way through. Saw it in high school and never left me.
Nice. And Tony, you've done a lot of travel in your work, but what's your favorite actual holiday destination?
Holiday destination, there's two places that I love going to. One is Seoul in South Korea.
Yep.
And the other one is Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And the reason I love this place, they have this kind of energy, vibe, and of course, delicious food. And it's just, the city just vibrates, right? And when you get there, you just feel it. You just feel the buzz. And being in Australia and Melbourne, all the shops close at 5:30, all the cafes close at 3 p.m. I can step out in Seoul at 12 midnight and enjoy a very good cup of coffee. So it's about the people, it's about the culture, the food. I love it.
That's just that difference, that energy. That's it. Yeah, that's awesome. Apart from family and friends, who has inspired you the most?
Oh, I guess I have to go to Robin Williams. And there were a lot of things I read about him, his generosity, right? And how every movie he made, he always had a writer in the contract about employing homeless people, about employing people who are disadvantaged to be on the set with him, to work with him. And that tells me that beneath all that brilliance was a real depth of humanity. And so, yeah, he reminded me that you can be extraordinary and still be profoundly human.
That's pretty. I mean, he was an amazing person, and obviously brought comedy to just a completely different level.
Different, and he was always able to switch just like that, with anything.
Wit,
of all the famous people that moved on, he was the only one I ugly cried on.
Ugly cried.
There you go.
There's a quote for the marketing team. What is the thing? I think I know just from our conversation now. But what is the thing you do outside of work you're passionate about or keeps you going?
All right, I do a lot of acting, so I do have an IMDb profile.
Wow.
Yeah. So I do a few gigs here and there, TV ads here and there, and at the moment, I think my Toyota ads are still on air, and I've got a little poster that comes out on Spotify also for Toyota. So that you see that on Spotify. So I do that, and then
wow.
Because look, when you're in HR, you're playing one role, but when you are acting, you get to play so many different roles. I mean, I've been in acting, I've been shot at so many times. I've had chocolate mint sauce, which they use as blood.
Yeah.
All over my face. Yeah.
Wow, I have to look this up. I've got to look this up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And of course, I play the saxophone. Yeah.
And so, and just on the acting part, is anything currently out right now that
No. At the moment, like I said, it could be the Toyota ad if it's on a rollover. So that's it. Nothing else that's showing at the moment.
Cool.
And I haven't had a chance to really do much this year. So once the quiet period comes, if I'm not traveling, I might try it again.
Might do a little bit more.
That's it.
Very good. And well, maybe that was already the one, but tell us something about yourself that people don't know about you. But
I don't know. I guess I enjoy playing the saxophone, not because I liked at the start. It was more because of how you prepare the saxophone. So that's something people may not know about me. I think I did a LinkedIn post about this, where a friend of mine told me that to get a saxophone going, you have to wet and moisturize the wooden reed, right? And he said the best way to do that is to drop it into a glass of whiskey.
Oh.
And I thought, what a fabulous idea to drop in whiskey. So when you play, you have a piece of whiskey. So I got to try that instrument. So that's how I got into saxophone, because of whiskey.
So bad way. Very good. I just want to make some closing questions, if you don't mind. Could you recommend a book or a movie or a TV show or a podcast to listeners, and what would it be and why?
Well, I guess this particular podcast that we're on, Jonathan, I think I had
HR Engage podcast on all platforms. Yes.
Say that again one more time.
HR Engage podcast on all platforms.
On all platforms.
On all
listen
platforms.
To that. Yes, listen to that. And the other book, I guess, there's a book called The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanner. It's a short book. It's practical and completely changed how I have conversations in a way, at work and outside of it. So the central idea is, it's quite simple. It's ask more, tell less. So that's a book that I would recommend. And there's another book by a guy called Eric Sim, and it's called Small Actions.
Okay.
And he talks about how by just doing small actions every day, you make big differences. Looking for
That's a good. I haven't heard that one, so actually, that's a great one to look into. Tony, this discussion has been super fascinating. I've learned. The whole thing about you being an actor just completely surprised me. So I've got to look that up. I'm definitely got to look that up. But from a HR perspective, you reiterated that, HR professionals really need to understand the commercial avenues of the organization, the commercial, to get some commercial acumen, because at least then it can start talking the language of the organization, the people who are leading that organization, because it's all about the relevancy of HR. Once you have that relevancy, you're saying that then you can have a voice and be an advocate for the people in the workforce, which in your mind means not being neutral. So it might be that you will have to go say some hard things and do some difficult things. You talked about also being comfortable with the uncomfortable and stretching yourself. And you said it in different ways, but basically from a professional perspective, pushing yourself, looking at maybe going to different types of conferences, not just HR, not just the echo chambers, but talking to other types of people to get a bit more of a vast array of knowledge and experiences. But obviously, the more, I suppose, straightforward side of that in looking at constant improvement, the constant improvement and taking opportunities as they come. You had some great stuff for the early career professionals. I mean, AI can be great, but it is also a challenge. And for those in more junior positions, you still need to get some of those building blocks in place. And you say that, look, it's definitely an opportunity and also potentially a tool, but for those in early career in particular, need to get some of those building blocks in place before doing something about it. Okay. I think also you said something about, if you get an opportunity, go work overseas.
Absolutely.
I thought that was interesting, but you said it from a couple of different perspectives. One is obviously the culture, like different cultures and different, face different experiences, which are going to be difficult. So you didn't even sugarcoat that. You just said that's just going to be difficult, straight out difficult. And but you'll learn from that. But also then when you do come back, you can take that and build that as part of your career experiences, and then you have more tools, I suppose, at your disposal that you can utilize. It's been a really fascinating discussion, Tony. And I know that and for those who don't know, Tony's got, so much great content on LinkedIn. Like I don't want to say that too much more, but he does. He's got some great content on LinkedIn. He's got loads of followers. So be one of his followers. It's really cool. Are you on any other social media platforms? I don't even know.
I had TikTok for about a month, and then I decided it wasn't for me. And I do have an Instagram page, but it's very different content. It's not necessarily HR.
So LinkedIn, basically LinkedIn. Let's just stay with LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is my main platform, and that's what I use it for. Yeah.
So jump on. He's done some great stuff. Follow him. And it. You know what, guys? It's a little bit different. And I like that. It's a little bit different. Shows a little bit of a different angle to traditional HR themes. Yes, there's some leadership themes, and yes, there's stuff around management. Yes, but there's other parts to it as well. It's more nuanced than that, which I think is super interesting. And he does it in basically different environments too, which is cool.
Thank you.
One was on a plane, which is great. So before we head off into the sunset, is there a quote or a moment of inspiration you'd like to leave us with?
There's a line that stayed with me for many years. It says, "People will forget what you said and forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel."
That's a good one. That's a good one, Tony. So
it all comes down to how a human being felt walking out of conversation with HR, right?
Amazing. Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure. So again, those guys at home listening, on the couch, in the car, on a bus, train, beach, airplane, wherever it might be, make sure you like, follow, subscribe on on the platforms. I know it's popular on Apple and Spotify, but if you're on another random platform, cool, do that too. Make sure you share it with people in the HR, people in culture and learning development community. Let's get more people listening to the podcast so we can get more people like Tony onto the HR Engage podcast. As always, I'm Jonathan Mamaril, your host of the HR Engage podcast. Speak soon.
Thank you very much for having me.